Hi guys, I'm Nima from MVL Leasing, and today we put together a short compilation video of some of our favorite exotic cars. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell so you see all the new videos as soon as they come out. If you or somebody you know is in the market for a high-end or exotic car, you can hit our link in the top of the description. My email is there too. And don't forget to mention that you saw us on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very exciting rare car to show you today. This is a 2022 Ford GT Heritage Edition. So the Ford GT was first introduced for 2017 and became for a continuation of Ford's Halo car. The last one that they made was in 2005-2006, and this car is a complete redesign. This particular one is a Heritage Edition, so each subsequent year that the Ford GT was made, between 17 and 22, they introduced a new Heritage Edition. For 2022, this was the last Heritage Edition that came off the assembly line, which is actually in Markham, Ontario. The car is built by Multimatic. The engine is assembled in Michigan and sent to Multimatic for full carbon fiber aluminum construction. The color scheme on this car is to pay homage to the Alan Mann racing team back in the 1960s. He was the first designer to integrate lots of lightweight components like carbon fiber into the GT40 AM1 GT1 race car. This was the color of his GT40 during those Le Mans runs. This is all denoted by the white paint, white, gold, and red. Number 16 was his number, and you're going to see how this theme is carried on throughout the rest of the car. These aren't stickers, these are actually painted on. It's a very expensive option. The way that this one was spec'd out in Canadian dollars was approximately $770,000. Today, this car is actually worth a lot more. The headlights are full LED. They all take design cues from the original GT40. Lots of vents. The air basically sucks in here and goes through a couple of radiator fans that not only offer downforce the way this front end is designed, but there's radiator fans that are built into the front end just over there. The engine is turbocharged, so you need all the cooling that you can get with this car. The headlights are really sharp. Like I said, all LED with Ford GT logos adorning the inside there. Everything about this car indicates speed. The shape of the windscreen, the elongated posts on the mirrors, the teardrop shapes of the headlights, the ground effects on the side. These are all designed to channel air up, in, and around the wheels. You see more of the number 16, which was Alan Mann's number. Another thing that you get with this Heritage Edition is the black carbon ceramic calipers. Not all Ford GTs are equipped like this, but this one is with the full carbon fiber wheels and titanium bolts. This is better for unsprung weight, and titanium bolts are also lighter as well. All cars are equipped with carbon ceramic brakes, and this car comes with Michelin Sport Cup 2 tires, which are just legal enough to drive on the street, but really shine when you're on the track. There's vents and heat exchangers everywhere for cooling, downforce, and general aerodynamics. Here you have a heat exchanger, and you also have one, this basically feeds your engine cooler. You also have a transmission cooler on the other side that's fed air. When you look at the car from the side, or you look at it from certain angles, it all looks like one piece, but you'll notice each wheel is almost fully independent beneath the bodywork with with connections like this. So if you were to stand over here, you can see that the rear wheel is almost on its own. This way the air can travel through, first of all, feed this heat exchanger, and also keep the back end down and feed air to this active spoiler, which also works as an air brake as well. It's a 325 wheel in the back, so you need a lot of meat in order to put down the power that this car has, which is about 647 horsepower. Rear wheel drive, so these are the only drive wheels that you have. These tail lights are not only function as lights, but they also function as ventilation. Through that grille is another heat exchanger. That one's for the engine oil. On the other side of that tail light is for the transmission cooler. Ford relied on the good boys at Akrapovic to create the factory exhaust for this car, so it's got a really nice snarl when the car is up and going. This spoiler is in its down position right now, but this thing is active and does a lot of different things. This will raise up and angle itself to provide different levels of downforce depending on your speed and pitch and things like that. And if you hammer those carbon ceramic brakes at certain speeds, this will flip up like this to provide an air brake and take a lot of the work off of the braking system. You have a nice glass engine cover here that shows off this Ford EcoBoost engine. A lot of people were disappointed when some people put a V6 twin turbo in this, but Ford didn't disappoint when it came to tuning this thing. So it has a really nice carbon fiber engine cover reminding you who made the engine. About 647 horsepower, which is plenty to get this thing moving. Over here is where you put your engine oil. This car has dry sump lubrication. Dry sump lubrication is part and parcel to a race car. There's no oil pan. Since there's no oil pan, it allows the engine to be situated lower. This betters your center of gravity and also When you're relying on a pump to distribute oil throughout your engine, you're not going to be starving one cylinder bank when you're taking hard corners. Absolutely necessary when you have a car at this performance level. A really nice engineering piece is the rear diffuser on this car with these vertical fins. So what this does is it expels air from underneath the car in a way that creates a low pressure area behind the car. This all helps with downforce. It's hard to show you now, but the underside of this car is completely flat. This is all done for aerodynamics. When the car is put into special driving modes, the most aggressive being VMAX mode, the car hunkers down so as to avoid any sort of body roll whatsoever, and it almost uses downforce and aerodynamics in order to help the car stick closer to the road. Okay, now the interior of this car is just as interesting as the exterior. So we start by opening these butterfly doors. So I just push on this piece here. Electric actuator opens the door and the door goes up by itself. You can see that the car is a full carbon fiber tub. This is for lightweight construction. The butterfly doors make it easier to get in and out. It requires a little bit of acrobatics, but not too much. So sitting in here, it's a little tight. There's not a lot of space to spare in here, but you have everything that you need. Here you have your interface for your radio, your climate control, all within very easy reach. Now the steering wheel is almost square shaped, flat top and flat bottom wrapped in Alcantara. Everything is dry carbon on the steering wheel. You can control a lot of things from your steering wheel, from your wipers to your washer fluid, to your high beams, to your turn signals, your volume, and different menus in your completely digital instrument cluster. Probably the most fun switch on here is the one that you use to activate your different driving modes. So you have wet, normal, sport, and the extra fun one, VMAX, which we're going to show you a few of the things that happen when you put the car into that mode. This car has a few different personalities, VMAX being the most extreme. Billet aluminum shift paddles here. These are connected to a double clutch transmission, so your shifts are instantaneous. Seats are all covered in Alcantara. They have gold and red stitching, all to pay homage to Alan Mann. Just beneath here, you have the GT logo with the production number and a picture of the American flag to remind everybody where the car was designed. I think they should put a Canadian flag there since the car was built in Canada. You'll notice this is all dry carbon with this number 16 for Alan Mann's car built into the door here. Same thing on the passenger door. Alcantara headliner, nice big dash where you can see all the dry carbon that surrounds your binnacle and your dashboard. When you open the door here, you'll notice the whole door is adorned with dry carbon fiber and Alcantara door grips. Also, when you open the door, you'll expose these cast aluminum door hinges. So this is done for lightness and for strength. You can even see that they're hollow to save weight. We're talking a matter of grams, but every gram counts when you're trying to create a lightweight car. Now, the cool thing about this car is the seats. Now, the seats are actually fixed and they're made of carbon fiber and they have the holes in them that would accommodate a 3-point or 5-point harness. But one would think, well, how do you make adjustments to different drivers? Well, you have a switch that you can pull down here that basically lets you pull your steering wheel in and out, okay? And the seats is fixed, but the pedals move. So the dead pedal actually has a little grip strip that you can put your foot on. There's a little tether that I pull here to allow movement of that. So when I do that, I can push them further away or I let go and they come closer to me. They're all actuated by a piston. So these are the only forms of adjustment you have that would accommodate each driver. When you look over here, there's very, very few parts that this car shares with any other Ford. The only thing that I can really think of in here would probably be your window switch. But beyond that, everything that you're seeing in here is proprietary to this vehicle. Okay, let's fire the car up.
Now this is a cold start, so the car tends to start a little bit louder. You can even hear the turbo schooling through that Akrapovic exhaust system. Everything you need to know is in your digital instrument cluster. Another cool thing about your steering wheel here is the LED shift indicators. There, now the car is quieted down a bit. So when I put it in VMAX mode, the car hunkers down very quickly. It drops about 50 millimeters. This is to help mitigate any body roll when you're taking corners and stuff like that. When you're on the track, this car is very sure-footed regardless as to what speed you're going at. The digital instrument cluster is laid out in the most simplest way possible, with your revs going up across the top to the edge, with your speed in the middle. This is all designed to give you just the crucial information that you need when you're on the track without distracting you with any unnecessary information.
Okay, let's take a look underneath the engine cover. This is all carbon fiber. The heaviest part of this whole piece is the glass. Here is pretty much the extent of your storage in this car. So you got room for a lunch pail and a 6-pack. All carbon fiber engine treatment. valve cover, and all the trim around the side. All stamped carbon fiber one piece. This 22 Ford GT Heritage Edition marks the end of production for this generation of Ford GT. The next generation is most likely going to be a hybrid or electric car. So if you like internal combustion, this would probably be the best example that one could get. This particular car isn't for sale at the moment, but hey, things change. So keep up on our website below, and my email is there in case you need to contact me.
I'm Nima from MVL Leasing, and this is a 2021 Ferrari SF90 Stradale. Okay, so let's get some facts and figures out of the way. SF90, what does it mean? SF stands for Scuderia Ferrari, 90th anniversary for participating in F1. Stradale means for the road. SF90 Stradale, that's where the name comes from. The car has 986 brake horsepower, or 1,000 horsepower according to the Society of Automotive Engineers. It's got about 590 foot-pounds of torque. It's all-wheel drive, but the hybrid tech or the electric motors are in the front, +1 in the transmission, and you have the gas engine too. Car does 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, does a quarter mile in 9.6 seconds. The transmission is an 8-speed double clutch, which is a little bit updated relative to previous Ferraris, which I'll get into in a bit. Now, the color of this car is what's called Rosso Corsa. A lot of people like Ferrari red. When they say Ferrari red, this is probably the color that they're thinking of, but Ferrari has about 7 or 8 different reds. I think the cars look good in any color, but I understand why people like red on a Ferrari, and this is probably the nicest one. And it makes sense because Rosso Corsa means Rosso is red, Corsa means track. I think it's pretty fitting for a car like this. So let's start here at the front end. A lot of vents, okay? So the two most prominent ones are the ones on each side here. Now they actually perform different functions than you would think normally. If you look inside, you're gonna see a couple of radiators, and these radiators are pretty much laying down. And what I had explained with the Ferrari F8 is that when you have openings that are little slits like this, it's hard to fit a big radiator in there. So when you lay them down, you're able to have a larger surface area for your radiator. These radiators are designed to cool the electric system. So even though you don't have any combustion, these electric motors still generate a lot of heat, and they need to be cooled in order to maintain their level of performance and functionality. If you come around to the side here, you're gonna see these diffusers. So these not only look good, but you can see that they have fins down there. And it's hard to see now because we're on the top side, but on the underside, you're gonna see more vents and things like that. These work in combination with your under tray in order to keep the front end on the ground and provide some downforce. Your headlights are in the shape of a letter C. Okay, these are LED lights. They're adaptive, so they bend around corners and they move up and down depending on how the suspension is. Like if you're hammering the gas and the car kind of goes up like this, the lights stay straight. Now you're gonna notice these slits here. These are actually for the brakes. So cars got carbon ceramic brakes, like all Ferraris, and these slits actually direct air to cool those brakes further. Everything's LED. This car is kind of a glimpse of what Ferrari is gonna be like in the future. These lights you're gonna see are common to a lot of the designs of Ferraris today, like the 296 GTB and GTS and the new Ferrari Purosangue. Okay, so let's take a look in the front here. Not a lot of space in here, just enough space for your car cover. This is your puncture kit. This is your SF90 tool kit. A lot of tools in here that let you do things if the car runs out of battery and things like that, which I'll demonstrate for you later. This is the package that holds your charging cable. Now there's not a lot of space in here, and this is because of all the hybrid tech. So you have 2 electric motors down here and a lot of stuff that kind of intrudes on your passenger space, but you get a lot of performance for that sacrifice. What you see here is RACE. So RACE stands for rotation, axis, control, electric. This is Ferrari's way of referencing the torque vectoring system for the front motors. These things don't just spin for nothing. They all spin in such a way that it works in concert with the combustion engine in the back to keep the car very poised when you're in a corner and things like that. A lot of things are at play when you're really romping on the gas and trying to go around a corner in order to keep this thing in control. And you have a nice little window here that showcases some of the electric technology that the car needs. Every Ferrari made after 2016 has this engraved plaque that lets you know all the options that were picked on this car, some of which we'll go into in a little bit. This is where your windshield washer fluid goes. This is where your brake fluid goes. windows. There's vents here that house your cabin filters and things like that. Nice feature in here is when you open the hood, you get to see the underside of this carbon fiber hood. That's a nice feature. I like being reminded of that stuff because lightness is even more of a priority when you're integrating hybrid technology, because you have batteries and these motors, these electric motors, they're not light. If you have a performance car that's integrating hybrid technology, lightness is even more important than on a regular engine. And what Ferrari's done with this car that's really good, did not integrate hybrid technology or electricity for fuel economy. They weaponized that technology to make the car more powerful and perform better. And all this technology is taken from F1. So I had explained how the front diffuser or the front splitters, the role that they play in keeping the front end down. If we were to look underneath there, you would see a lot of fins that are in the shape of a V. If we're standing at the front of the car and they go like this is to create a vortex. And these work with these splitters in order to do that. So what does that do? That kind of dispels air that's beneath the car and helps it suck to the ground. So if we come around to the side here, you're gonna see these the vents on the sides of these splitters that not only look good, but serve the purpose that I had described. Let's take a look at the wheels. These are what Ferrari calls dark forged. I call it gunmetal. It's kind of like got a matte finish, okay? Carbon ceramic braking system, but the good thing about the carbon ceramic brakes on this is they have integrated brake energy regeneration. So anytime you romp on the brakes, it helps charge the battery. There's a couple different ways that the car actually charges the battery. One is through braking, one is just through rolling, and the engine actually works as a generator to charge the batteries as well. These wheels have a very unique design. They're specific to the SF90, and one thing you're going to notice is these little fins that are in between the spokes. Now this not only looks good, but serves an important purpose. The purpose of these fins is to, when the wheel is turning, it actually takes air that's inside the wheel well and it expels it out. When you have air inside your wheel well that's turbulent, that's not good for handling, that's not good for downforce. Very important purpose. Titanium wheel bolts. That's for lightweight. That's really important, reduces your unsprung weight, and they're also very strong. The tires that come on this car are made by Michelin. They're Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2s. Really nice for the street, even better on the track. Not a car I'd want to drive in the rain or the cold, or at least not hard under those conditions. But nobody makes a tire better than Michelin. Another important detail on these fenders is the Ferrari crest, which is these, like I said, on all Ferraris, they're stamped, and this emblem is kind of adhered on there. One important thing I wanted to point out is that everything in front of the driver's knees is actually raised almost an inch relative to other Ferraris. And this is to increase the size of those fins that I was describing that are actually underneath the car that go in this direction in order to create that vortex to help the car suck to the ground. So if you were to look at a regular Ferrari, your feet are actually raised just a little bit to accommodate a little bit more, because every little bit counts, and aerodynamics is a big deal when it comes to this car. And we're going to go over a lot of the details that Ferrari had designed for this car in order to increase downforce. In fact, one interesting fact about this car is that it spent 2 times as much time in the wind tunnel than the LaFerrari. Aerodynamics was a huge priority. I like these mirrors because these mirror posts are actually leaning forward. They're kind of like leaning into the wind like this. You wouldn't really notice unless you got up close, right? I like how the bottom of the mirror is gloss black. This whole car is covered in paint protection film, which I think is a worthwhile investment when you're driving a car of this value and that can achieve these sorts of speeds. One thing I like about this, and this is nothing new, but it's just really nice when Ferrari does it. This piece for the roof is actually painted black. To the human eye, or when you're looking at it, it kind of changes the silhouette of the car and makes it look more low slung. If it was still red, the car's still low. Like I'm 6'1", and this car is up to the top of my waist. But it really kind of adds it really changes the look, and I think makes it look good. I've seen it done on Ferrari Californias and a bunch of other cars too, and I think it looks really slick. I like how the door handles aren't necessarily visible over here. They're right on top here, and they're electrically actuated. So when I press this, it's all electric. It opens the door mechanism through an actuator, and this window comes up for safety, and the door opens like normal. When we come around here, you're gonna see these big vents. Now this is split by this carbon fiber piece right here. So this bigger side feeds a radiator, and these actually feed the air intakes of the engine. So although it's one big vent, it's kind of split into 2, and they both serve different purposes. Now they're at the back, there's a couple key things that I wanted to point out. So one is this rear diffuser. It's really big, really pronounced, and actually sticks out the most out of the back. Now this is on purpose because the purpose of any diffuser is to expel the air underneath the car and actually create an area of low pressure. This also helps the car kind of suck to the ground. Spoiler helps with this. I'm going to get to that in a second. You have your parking sensors here built into the rear diffuser, plus your reflectors, and you have your rear view camera situated here nice and low. This way you can see curbs coming up because you don't want a curb to hit this, because these are pretty expensive to replace. You have a lot of vents here, or a lot of mesh that's built into the bodywork. Doesn't expose a lot, but like some of the other cars that we reviewed, but you do see a few things in here. You can see the transmission, you can see the transmission cooler through there. Titanium exhaust. I'm gonna go over some of the differences with this engine and how they're able to extract more power out of it, and the titanium exhaust is one of those things. The tail lights. I had mentioned with the F8 how Ferrari has kind of returned to the double pot, and with the SF90 and the 296 and the Puro Sang and the Roma, they've kind of retained the double look, but they've kind of changed them into a bit of a rectangle. This makes the car look a bit more futuristic, and from a design standpoint makes the car appear like it's a lot lower and wider. Not that it needs any help doing that, but it accentuates that pretty well. Okay, now the heart of this Ferrari is actually pretty impressive. So I'm just gonna open up this engine cover here, and to save weight, you have a little prop rod. So just put this here, and this keeps your engine cover. Now, the one thing that blew me away about the Ferrari F8 was how low the engine was situated. Believe it or not, this engine actually sits 2 inches lower than the Ferrari F8. Combustion engine in this car is actually a 4-liter twin-turbo V8. This engine is an evolved version of the engine that was in the F8, which was taken from the 488 Pista. So that was a 3.9-liter V8 twin-turbo with 710 horse. This is a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 with 769 horse. How did they get more power out of it? So basically, they modified the intake manifold, they modified the exhaust manifold, they bored out each cylinder to 88 millimeters, so they got a little bit more displacement, not a whole lot, but you go from 710 to 769. The turbos are situated lower. That is pretty much the main differences. There's far more details to it, but essentially that's what it is. The exhaust manifold is made of a material called Inconel. Inconel is a good balance between durability and lightness. The rest of the exhaust system is titanium. That is designed for lightness. So the exhaust system has changed, the intake has changed, the injectors were changed. This car, the injectors work at just over 5,000 PSI. So this engine, as if the engine in the Pista wasn't impressive enough already, they dialed that engine up to 12, and this is what you get. It's almost cavernous in here. Like, I can't even reach the intake manifolds from where I'm standing. A lot of the work that's done on this car is actually done from underneath. My favorite feature on this car is the integrated spoiler. So it has 2 parts. Right here, this part that has the third brake light is fixed. This part that has the Ferrari badge is actually what Ferrari calls the gurney flap. So this adjusts drag, and this technology was taken from F1. So this piece here that you see that has the Ferrari badge attached to it actually will kind of go down and recess. This adjusts your drag and your downforce depending on what speed you're going and what you're trying to do. You wouldn't know it unless the car was in motion, but it's a nice feature, and it doesn't demand too much attention, but performs its function very well. Just before we close the engine cover, I just want to point out some of the components in the engine bay here. This is where your oil goes. These parts that look like aluminum foil, these are actually heat shields. So these are your catalytic converters. You can see that your O2 sensors that are plugged into them. These 2 pipes you see here are part of your intake system. So your intake manifold is actually made of carbon fiber, 2 Ferrari badges on there. So those vents on the side that I was pointing out earlier, they suck in the air, comes in here through a filtration system, and then goes back here and fires goes right back into the engine. There's a lot more under here that's not visible because of all of these covers here. So the transmission is also back here. There's an electric motor inside that transmission. Anywhere that you see this wiring that has like that looks orange, this is to do with the hybrid system. In your transmission, you have an electric motor that helps enhance the performance of the car, which I'll get into detail. Another cool thing back here is that it's very symmetrical. You actually have two things that look like gas doors, but the one on the driver's side is to charge your electric motor or charge your battery, and the one on the right is to actually put fuel in. Okay, so now let's hop in. A lot of the Ferrari doors these days, it's all electric. So press this handle and the door mechanism opens. So One thing that's common to a lot of these cars is the tread plate. This one's not illuminated, but has the Ferrari badge in there. You can see your door, nicely stitched in leather. Whoever optioned out this car got the red stitching with some carbon fiber accents. A lot of carbon on the inside, more on the inside than on the outside with this particular car. So my favorite part of the interior is the seats. Now these seats, they're Scuderia race seats, and they're all made of one piece of carbon fiber. No electric adjustment. This allows the seat to sit lower and, more importantly, be lighter. You'll see a lot of holes in the seat, and this is all to accommodate your 5-point racing harness. If I pull this leather strap here, you can see the back of the seat and see how thin the seat actually is. Not only that, it kind of shows that you have a little parcel shelf back here where you can put stuff and it won't all fly around. But this is also really important because this is where the battery for the car is. So the battery for the car is also very dense, and it's important to keep that as as close to the middle of the car as you can and as close to the floor as you can. Being a extremely heavy component, if you're trying to manage weight distribution, that would be the best place to put it. And I think they did this part really well. Okay, now let's just hop in, have a seat. Really easy to get it in and out of these, especially when you have the Scuderia race seats. One thing I wanted to mention is that the race seats, they come in a few different sizes. These ones are size large, but it's really nice because they're extremely light. They're heavily bolstered. These ones are size large, perfect for somebody my carriage. Now, one thing not a lot of people know is that this is actually my car. Okay, I bought this from Costco. It was $22.99, and if you buy this car, it comes with it. Okay, they did a good job of integrating the speaker into the door panel where it doesn't really stand out. They rely on JBL for the sound system, but like I mentioned with the SVJ, that you know, the car makes enough sound that I don't really need to listen to music. But a nice feature nonetheless. You have a few buttons here that help you do important things. Your charging door. One is to open your gas door, and one is to open your front. You have this button on your key as well, which you can double tap. That makes it easy to open the front as you're coming up to it to put your belongings in there. With this generation of Ferrari, they have done away with a lot of the physical buttons. So when you hop in here, the only touch sensitive thing that is lit up is your engine stop start button, which is dead center of the steering wheel. All I gotta do is put my foot on the brake with the key in my pocket, press and hold this. So now that the engine's off, and you can actually hear what I'm saying, I just wanted to point out a couple interesting things on the interior. So you have a lot of surfaces that will light up when the car is on. So you have this surface here, which shows you what mode your headlights are in. It lets you pick your mirrors to adjust them. It lets you activate and deactivate your parking sensors, and it helps you activate your parking camera. This surface here is all for climate control. So everything is, like I said, everything is touch sensitive, almost looks like it's three-dimensional. With this SF90, it's almost like Ferrari meets Tron, because they do a really good job of integrating all this tech into the car without it being very daunting. Fully digital instrument cluster gives you a lot of information, tells you how much range you have when it comes to the gas engine, tells you how much range you have when it comes to the battery. And as you're driving, depending on what driving mode you're in, it tells you what is doing what. It tells you how much that the car is charging, how much electricity that you're using at any given time. The steering wheel is actually a little bit skinnier than normal Ferraris. I like it. That helps me get a bit of a firmer grip on it. You have your LED shift indicators. These shift indicators aren't like yellow LEDs anymore. They're like rectangular LEDs. Looks very updated. I think it's a really nice touch. Since 2010, Ferrari integrated the things like the turn signals and the wiper all into the steering wheel. Again, all designed to keep your attention dead ahead. Every Ferrari has what's called Manettino. That's a button here that lets you switch between the different driving modes. So you have wet, sport, race, CT off. That's traction control. It doesn't turn off completely, but turns on just enough for you to get a little tail hack. And then if you want to turn off your electronic stability program, you got to turn it to the right, hold it for 3 seconds. And at that point, the car beeps at you, blinks in red, and tells you, hey, you're on your own. Never driven a car in that mode because I like to keep between the white lines. Since this car is a hybrid, it's the first time that they integrated what they call an e-Manettino. So you have switches here on the steering wheel that let you adjust how the hybrid system works. So there's 4 different modes. One is eDrive. eDrive is pure electric. Now, if you're in pure electric mode, then believe it or not, this car would actually become front wheel drive. You have 2 electric motors at the front. They're worth about 97 horsepower each, and the car will not burn a drop of gas when you're in this mode. mode, and all you really hear is your fan and your tires. This is for when you're kind of coming into town or maybe pulling into your neighborhood. You only have about 25 kilometers of range when you're in this mode. By default, every time you fire the car up, it's in hybrid mode. So hybrid mode the gas engine works with the hybrid motor. It will try to use the combustion engine in order to charge the battery. It will exploit the regenerative braking. It will turn off at red lights and things like that. If you want to heighten the performance, then you go to the next mode, which is denoted with a checkered flag. This is called performance. So this will heighten everything and also alter your steering feedback. Speaking of which, the steering in this car is the first time that they put an electric steering rack in this car. A lot of people don't like electric steering racks because it makes the steering feel a little bit detached from the driver, because you can't really tell when your front wheels are scrubbing or losing traction or not. One thing I really got to credit Ferrari with is that despite how much tech that they integrate into their cars, they still make their cars still feel really analog. I still feel very connected to the car. Your suspension changes as well as you switch to different modes. So when you go into performance, you can expect your adaptive dampening to be extra stiff. Now, the most balls to the wall mode is denoted by this picture of a stopwatch, which puts the car into what Ferrari refers to as qualifying mode. So this will basically exploit every ounce of horsepower that this car has to offer, with the ICE engine working in concert with the electric motors to put out the most power possible. Performance or power is the main priority in this mode. So it will do away with a lot of the features that are in the performance in the hybrid mode, and it's pretty much just attack. The dashboard is really nice. A lot of exposed carbon fiber. This car also has head-up display. Okay, one of the first Ferraris that came with head-up display, and what shows there is different depending on what mode you're in. So if you're in electric mode, it'll let you know how much power you're using, and if you're in qualifying mode, it can show your lap times and things of that nature. Having a fully digital instrument cluster and head-up display allows a lot of the important information that a driver would need, depending on what you're doing, to be easily accessible and easily viewable without distracting you. Now, if you have a passenger, they'll be entertained too, because you have your central screen here. So in here, this will kind of show what the car's doing. It can show your revs, your speed, and stuff like that. So they definitely feel a part of the action. It's actually a really neat feature, and it's standard on this car, I believe. Now the transmission's back there, so there's a lot more space here. This isn't normally as big. The car is automatic. You have these nice tall carbon fiber steering column mounted shift paddles, and you have these buttons here that light up when the car is on that let you choose different modes. So and it looks kind of like, reminds you of old Ferraris, because it looks like a gate from the old manual transmissions. So the first one here, you pull towards the back, that puts the car into reverse. An interesting thing about this transmission is that it's an 8-speed double clutch, which replaced the 7-speed double clutch in previous cars. It actually shifts at about 200 milliseconds, which is almost the blink of an eye, almost as fast as the blink of an eye. It's close enough as it makes no difference. But the cool thing about it is that this transmission has only 8 forward gears. So when you want to go into reverse, the electric motors is actually what enables the car to go into reverse. Since you have no reverse gear in the transmission is about 10 kilograms lighter. Like I said, weight is very important. This switch in the middle here, AM, automatic, manual. So if I switch this to the bottom, I'm in charge of going through the gears. And then this last one here goes towards top. PS, this is Italian for race start. Your window switches are in the middle here. You have a cup holder here and a little part here where you can store your phone, and you have a connection for USB to charge your phone. But there's a little rectangular slot here that has felt on it, and that is for your Ferrari key. And this is what Ferrari keys look like these days. This is the back side, which looks like a Ferrari badge. This one's done in silver. I've seen them in yellow and things like that. And the back is actually stitched in leather and has a little plaque that lets you know what car you're driving and your unlock and lock switch. This is very delicate. Every time we get these cars in, we treat these keys with extreme care. This particular key for this car to replace is just over $6,500, plus about $1,000 to program. Take really good care of them. But it's really nice because when it's not very big. It's almost the size of a Zippo lighter. But when you get in the car, you can stuff it right in this slot right here, and it fits in there nice and perfectly. Okay, now let's fire it up and see what it sounds like. I think you can see that when it comes to this SF90, there's a lot more to this car that meets the eye. I hope you can agree that Ferrari did a really good job of weaponizing electricity in order to give you a glimpse of the future of Ferrari. The V12 has always been Lamborghini's signature dish, so when they started getting to the end of production for the Aventador, they wanted to go out with a bang and create the highest performing, wildest looking one they could. I'm Nima from MVL Leasing, and this is a 2019 Lamborghini Aventador SVJ. So the name Aventador comes from a Spanish fighting bull. Everybody knows that. Not a lot of people know what SVJ stands for. So SVJ stands for Super Veloce Jota or Jota. That name, J-O-T-A, was usually designated for Lamborghini's highest performing models. They started this with the Lamborghini Miura, which was the car that made Lamborghini famous, and they brought that name back for the Diablo. Since those two cars, they haven't used that name until now with this one. The Aventador SVJ is built on three principles, or they kind of emphasize these principles when it comes to how they tweak this car. Downforce, lightness, and aerodynamics. It's a big deal, makes the car look different. Form follows function when it comes to these things. So on the front bumper, you're gonna see that this symbol here that says ALA. That stands for Aerodinamica Lamborghini Attiva, which is Lamborghini Active Aerodynamics. All cars have really nice front splitters and front lips and spoilers and stuff like that, but the ones on the SVJ actually have functioning parts that alter how the car manages the air. Right away, you'll notice in the front lip right here, there's these two little rectangular slots. Now these are actually active, so these open and close to alter the downforce on the car depending on what you want to do. When these vents here are closed, they provide more downforce. So these flaps open up, so air rushes here and it shoots it beneath the car. When the vents here are open, they provide less downforce. When they're closed, they provide more downforce. And they're actually built, or they function based on electric actuators. Most stuff like this is hydraulic, but that means more weight and more sophistication. So when you have electric actuators for these, it's really all about lightness. One cool thing is, depending on what the temperature is, if it's really cold, these will cease to function because to prevent them from being damaged from the cold weather. The point is, when you are trying to go for a sprint, let's say you're trying to do a quarter mile, these will probably stay open in order to create less downforce. This will make it easier for the car to do that sprint. But when you start getting to higher speeds where downforce is more important, then these vents will close. Now, this isn't the only portion of the car that has this feature, but in the front end is extremely important. SVJs have a specific bumper. So you would only see this on an SVJ. You have extra vents here. So the air comes in over this carbon fiber piece of your front bumper and it goes up here and it shoots out the top. And it follows these channels all over the car and directs air to that rear spoiler, which we're gonna get to. That's a really cool part. The name of this color is called Verde Alceo. Verde means green. Alceo is an Italian name that's synonymous with strength and power. Think the Hulk, because the car is quite big and very powerful. And it's a factory matte paint, and this particular car is covered in a satin PPF, the entire car. It doesn't take away from the color underneath. Depending on what angle you're looking at the color tends to change. It's actually a really nice feature. Aventadors are full of sharp lines and stuff, so depending on where you're standing, it really shows the different lines of the car without hiding them like the color black or something like that. Another important element about the front end of this car and the aerodynamics down here are these inlets that are on each side of the front bumper, just behind this carbon fiber piece right here. These direct air to those carbon ceramic brakes to help cool them. They generate a lot of heat and you're probably going to be romping on them a lot. The car is extremely light, but generally still a heavy car, and you need the most efficient braking you can get, and that is absolutely necessary. Let's just make our way around to the side here. You have nice touches with the SVJ, like, you know, carbon fiber accessories that kind of stand out, but the really nice part that helps set these cars apart are the wheels. It's a double staggered setup, so it's a 255 20-inch tire in the front. This is a forged aluminum wheel. They're center locking with a nice carbon fiber Lamborghini center cap. Carbon ceramic brakes, of course. Whoever had spec'd this car had gotten the red brake calipers painted. So you see a lot of the aerodynamics or ground effects that carry on from the front all the way down the sides of the car to the back. So you have these winglets on the side that direct air up and around the wheels and help keep the front end down. And this is kind of carried on throughout the side here. Regular Aventadors don't have these carbon fiber side skirt extensions with these little winglets that help direct the air. Once we go further down the side here, you have nice carbon fiber mirrors. So this is the mirror casing and the mirror post, all pure carbon fiber. Those side skirt extensions that I was describing to you. You have this nice little tiny triangular window that comes in all Aventadors. And for the special edition ones like this one, you have a nice carbon fiber badge that's bolted to the inner door here, where it tells you you're driving a car that they only made 900 of. So for the coupe version, they only made 900 of these cars for the world. One common thing to a lot of the design for a lot of Lamborghini's sports cars like this is the silhouette. So you could almost draw a straight line from the tip of the nose right to the top of the windscreen. This is common to, say, Huracan, Aventador, Murcielago, Gallardo. It's kind of a design element that they're known for. Especially with the Aventador, when you get a Roadster, the silhouette doesn't change. The car retains that same shape. It's very low slung and it looks like it's breaking the speed limit even when it's standing still. Once we come down here, the doors themselves are pretty much taken from a regular Aventador, but the one thing that really helps this SVJ stand out, if the thing had no badges and no spoiler, I would know it's an SVJ by this giant air intake or heat exchanger actually. So on the SVJs, you can see that these actually jut out a lot more than on a standard Aventador. You really wouldn't notice unless you had the cars next to each other, but when you have this stick out a bit more, you're able to scoop more air. And you're gonna need to do that because you have a huge heat exchanger there, and then it all carries on towards the back. There's vents and inlets everywhere. So you have your intakes on the side here, they're fixed and open, finished in carbon fiber. That's a nice touch. You can usually get these cars with a lot of stickers or decals on the side. This one just has one, and it's the only one that counts, the SVJ one. Now this is actually painted on the car, it's actually not a sticker. When we come back down here to the rear wheel, carries on the theme from the front. Wheels specially designed by Pirelli for Lamborghini. You can tell by the Lamborghini L on the tire. Carbon ceramic brakes, like I said, 21-inch wheel in the back, 20 in the front, 355 tire in the back, 255 tire in the front. I don't know a car right now that has a wider rear tire, but for these big Lambos, it's kind of part and parcel to their big V12 cars. Now, the coolest thing about the rear wheel is the rear wheel steering. So the Aventador is actually a relatively big car with a pretty long wheelbase. So when you integrate rear wheel steering, this greatly improves your handling. And for something like this that looks like it's born and built on a track, you need any advantage you can get in order to carve those corners. So I would handle a standard Aventador all day long just because of this one feature. It's actually really neat. A lot going on back here. Seems really busy, but everything has a purpose. So we're gonna start with the spoiler because this looks like it demands the most attention. So it's a pretty unique shape. It's the second part of Lamborghini's ALA system with the active aerodynamics. If you look on the engine cover here, there's a big air intake here. And inside this air intake is something that looks like a throttle body flap like this. So it goes like this when it's closed and it goes like this when it's open. When it opens, it actually directs air here through these little veins that actually go into the spoiler, and there's actually vents underneath here that lets the air expel out. This stalls the wing, okay? And this adjusts your downforce depending on what you want to do. And not only that, one side can stay open and one side can stay closed. So half the wing has what they call wing stall and the other half doesn't. So that way they put downforce on one side of the wing and allow a little bit, like free up some downforce on the other side, especially like if you're in a corner. So if you're taking a right corner, it'll push this part of the spoiler down and vice versa. If you come a little bit lower, you have those iconic Aventador taillights. I love them. You have these two cannons that are facing you. So this is the new revised titanium exhaust for the Aventador, mainly for lightness, and it sounds a lot better. You'll notice this grille that kind of surrounds these exhaust tips. You can even tell that this car has about 12,000 kilometers. You can tell that this has faced a lot of heat in its time, because you can tell just by how it's kind of worn because of that heat. Big, thick carbon fiber rear bumper and diffuser. So the diffuser is extremely important because this is what directs and expels the air that is underneath the car. Beneath your taillights, you have these giant exposed radiators. These all serve different purposes. One would be for the transmission, one would be for engine oil and things like that, but they serve different purposes but are fully exposed for you to see. You have your discrete rear view camera, which is necessary when you're reversing this car because it's very hard to see out the back with this huge wing and this center pillar right in your way. Specific to SVJs is the engine cover. So this is all made of carbon fiber. Your normal Aventador engine cover has different pieces of glass. So they did this for lightness and did away with a lot of parts. You'll notice a lot of vents. This is all to expel heat and add downforce through the engine bay. Those vents come right here on the top of the rear end, but this whole piece is removable. They actually got rid of the hinges and they got rid of the pistons that would allow one to just open the hood and let it be open. So they have these locks here that are spring loaded that you press in order to dislodge the engine cover. And usually it takes two people or one person who has some practice to pull this off in order to service the engine. So you just press on the actual keyhole. This exposes a little handle that you kind of pull vertical. It's helpful if you have somebody helping you or to have another person to help you pull this off, because these engine covers are very expensive and they did away with the hinges, so you kind of need to carry it off. And please don't drop it, because if you do, it costs just over $53,000 to replace. Okay, so now that we got the engine cover off, now we can see what makes this Aventador most special. So we'll start by this cross member here. So when you have an engine in the back and you need to maintain rigidity, this is a key component. It's in the shape of an X and it meets right down here where your rear suspension meets, which is actually a really neat feature with these Aventadors. It's push rod, which is F1 stuff. So the springs and the shock absorbers are actually located horizontally. You do have adjustable suspension. You can see little threads here where you can actually lower the car. Not something you'd be able to do. It takes a bit of work. Only trust a professional with this sort of stuff. The shock absorbers say BWI Group. This is actually owned by KW. When the Aventador first came out, the suspension was made by Öhlins, but for some reason when they switched to the Aventador S starting in 2017, they went with KW for the suspension. The Aventadors, when it first came out, they're all 6.5 liter naturally aspirated V12s. The first one that came out was 700 horse, the LP700, and this one is the second from the top in terms of horsepower. So how did they increase horsepower and stuff like that? So the main things that they did is that they revised the cylinder head, revised engine management, titanium intake valves, revised intake system, things like that. It's all a drop in the bucket, but it all adds up to a lot of horsepower. This is your intake system. So when we were on the side of the car, I showed you those small inlets right behind the windows. Those actually feed your air box. And your air box is actually right down here, and it splits the air into 2 throttle bodies per cylinder bank. So this car has 4 throttle bodies. So the air comes in here, it goes through a filter system, and then it goes in here into your throttle bodies and into the engine. Those bigger vents that you saw right here, these actually feed the heat exchangers that are fully exposed at the back of the car. When you have a radiator, both sides of it need to be open. One side to have the air rush at it, and the other side it's got to be open for the air to escape, to cool whatever is circulating inside that radiator. Down here, you'll see this really nice piece. This is the dry sump lubrication. So the oil is distributed in the engine through a strong pump. Doesn't require an oil pan or anything like that, or doesn't rely on an oil pan. When the engine cover is off, this fully exposes that throttle body looking flap that I was describing to you that dispels air and makes this rear spoiler more effective. So you can fully see the flap, where it is. You can see the hinge, and you can see that it can move in unison, or they can move independently, depending on what side of the wing that you want to have your downforce on. Okay, so now let's hop in and open these iconic doors. So these are scissor doors. The door handle is cleverly disguised right underneath this body line. You put your finger underneath and you feel a little rubber strip. You press that, the window shuffles down, electric actuator opens the actual door mechanism, and the door goes up on its own using a piston that's built into the fender right there. So you are greeted by your illuminated Aventador door sill here in that popular Aventador font, and it also exposes the carbon fiber tub of the car. More of this is shown on the inside, so let's hop in and take a look. When you hop in an SVJ, there's a few differences over and above a regular Aventador. So the one is the patterning on the seats. The center of the seat is Alcantara, it's for grip. And this car was spec'd with green accents. So you have green cross stitching going across your dash with the Alcantara, on your steering wheel, your 12 o'clock strip right here. Your inner door sills are also the color of the stitching is called Verde Fawns. And you also have some piping that goes along your transmission tunnel here, and a nice little leather piece in the roof. that's separated from the rest of the Alcantara roof by this green piping here. The seats themselves have the SVJ embroidery on the side to remind you which model you're driving. The seats are carbon fiber, so the backing of the seat is carbon fiber, the seat bottom is carbon fiber. The seats are actually still electric, and that's probably the most practical thing that you're gonna find in this interior. Everything else is kind of adorned with leather and exposed gloss carbon fiber. So one of the main things that I was telling you that was emphasized with the SVJ was lightness. A couple of the ways that they reduced the weight is to remove all the sound deadening in the car. So this car is notably louder than your regular Aventador. There's no floor mats. All you have are these grip strips that are built into the floor. There's no carpeting or anything like that. All of the carbon fiber tub is all fully exposed. When the Aventador was actually introduced in 2011 as a 2012 car, it was actually the cheapest supercar that you can get with a full carbon fiber tub. So this is at a time when the Holy Trinity was introduced, like the Porsche 918, the LaFerrari and stuff like that. But for a regular production car to have this was a big deal at the time, and it's still a big deal today. A performance bargain, if you ask me. The driver has an aluminum dead pedal here that you can use in order to push yourself back into the seat in order for you to kind of remain stationary when you're taking corners, and this thing will pull like maybe 1.1 Gs. The center console of the car is relatively unchanged. Few key differences is your different driving modes. You have 4 of them: Strada, Sport, Corsa, and Ego. So Strada is for regular street driving, Sport is heightened performance, Corsa is for the track, and Ego allows you to program and alter the things that change when you go from one driving mode to the other. So one thing that the Aventador has is what they call magneto-rheological suspension. Adjustable dampening. So the stiffness of the suspension can be adjusted. The height is fixed, but the stiffness can be adjusted. The way the transmission shifts, the most important thing when you're trying to put down lap times and stuff like that, that can be adjusted. Based on other reviews you've seen on the Aventador, when you put the car into a more aggressive modes, the transmission shifting is a lot harsher. It's almost the equivalent of getting kicked in the back. It even shortens the lifespan of your clutch. Depending on what driving mode you spend the most time in. When you go into Sport, your suspension stiffens and your shifting becomes a bit faster. When you put it in Corsa, maximum stiff, it shifts the hardest. This car has a 7-speed single clutch transmission, which a lot of people don't like. But I personally love it because this actually makes the car more of an occasion to drive. Like the shifting is a lot harder. I feel like I'm a bit more a part of the action. Like it still shifts extremely fast, but there is one limitation to it. And the reason why they had to use a single clutch transmission is because there is no double clutch transmission that you can make that can not only deal with the punishment that this engine puts out, but also transfer that power through an all-wheel drive system. So it was necessary, and it's kind of part of the car's charm. It still shifts really fast. A lot of people say that sometimes it acts a little bit dim-witted at low speeds and things like that, but I'm sorry, if I'm buying an Aventador, I only care about how it acts at high speeds. I'm not using this to go grab a coffee. I want to have, I want it to be poised and ready to pounce when I want to put the pedal down, and it does that very well. Okay, now let's bring this car to life. So I'll just flip this switch cover here, foot on the brake, press and hold start. So now that the car is fired up, the instrument cluster comes to life. It shows a picture of the car. It even has little animations that let you know what the ALA system is doing that I was describing. It's got a G meter, and you have your revs that all go across the top. One thing I forgot to mention is that one way that this car achieves 770 horsepower is they increase the rev limit of the car. So this car revs to about 8,500, whereas previous models only rev to about 8,250. I know it's 250, but it makes a difference when you're at the limit. So I'm just gonna blip the throttle in Strada mode, and then we're gonna have it in Sport where the valves in the exhaust kind of open up and let a little bit more sound come out. A couple more important things that I just wanted to mention about the interior of this SVJ. The nicest part is your one-piece carbon fiber door cards. So you don't have any pockets or anything like that. It's all one piece of carbon fiber. This is all done for lightness. This particular car is spec'd with the Lamborghini Sensonum sound system. Waste of money in my opinion. When you have a car that's this small, it's kind of hard to get the acoustics right, but what do you need a radio for when you have a front row seat to this orchestra behind you? A lot of people complain about that. You shouldn't be listening to music, you should be listening to the engine. Which brings me to the radio and the interface here. They're not winning any awards here. And when I remember when they were re-releasing the Aventador or refreshing it with the Aventador S, I had a friend who worked at Lamborghini who went to Lamborghini training. And I said, did they do anything to the radio? Do I have an auxiliary input? Did they do Bluetooth audio now? And he goes, no changes. So even right up until 2022, you don't even have Bluetooth audio with these things. Now there's ways to get around this if you have a good audio guy and stuff like that, but you could tell that the radio and the interface wasn't a priority whatsoever. In fact, it was taken out of an Audi A6 that wasn't even built in the same year that the Aventador was made. They took it from a previous car. You can see where the priorities are when it comes to Lamborghini, but hey, I'm not complaining. As long as I can make a call, that's all I would really want to use this system for. And even then, if I'm driving this car, I don't really want to be bothered. So I hope you enjoyed some of the details that help this SVJ stand apart from the rest of the Aventador lineup. I've left out a lot of details, but feel like I highlighted the ones that are most important. I'm Nemo with MVL Leasing. Don't forget to like and subscribe.